Welcome to the Short Funk Podcast. I'm Tom Barbalet, and today I'm going to start on the experiment that I was talking about with regards to the new year to explore the notion of relativism. Now, relativism has a variety of formal definitions, but what I'm talking about here is having a perspective which is somewhat reflective, associated with concepts of morality, but mainly associated with what are broadly defined as cultural and religious views. Now, to be a relativist, as I am, and I think I have a particular perspective associated with relativism, is partially a survival mechanism when you travel extensively, when you move between countries, when you live in certain places, to come to a place that has a particular cultural perspective, one that might seem quite curious from where you've been previously or cumulatively over your life. My perspective is, oftentimes it's interesting to kind of look back with a sense of almost anthropological analysis. What you are looking at here is something that oftentimes has no real deeper meaning. It's just occurred because there have been a variety of factors that have affected it. With regards to morality, with regards to a variety of perspectives that I find culturally idiomatic. Let's take, for example, because practical examples are always good here, prostitution. Where I come from in Australia, prostitution's decriminalised. It's been decriminalised, I don't know, probably since the late 80s. And it was decriminalised primarily because it just seemed like an unnecessary crime. Like, it seemed almost like a victimless crime, and with many things, like, for example, I don't know what one would call it, the war on drugs, for want of a better term. It's very difficult to actually determine what does more harm. And there are interesting statistics associated with drugs, specifically that the criminalisation of drugs actually makes vastly more money than the sale of drugs themselves. Disproportionately more now. Which is very curious when you look at concepts of harm reduction. In the case of prostitution, this kind of analysis was also applied. The nature of, sin and these kind of things, which is often applied by people that, don't approve of prostitution. If you have organised brothels where people are tested for STDs, very similar to the porn industry in the US, then these kind of primary versions of sin just doesn't seem to have any of the impact that it once had. And in this regard, you find things where you travel that are particularly curious, but always can fit into these perspectives of, in one particular place on this planet, the people have this particular view, and in another place on the planet, they have another view. Thankfully, I've lived in places that tend to be relativistic in one way or another. I haven't lived in the central part of the United States. In the UK, I lived in an area that wasn't particularly judgmental. And I always find it curious when my path crosses with someone that has these kind of particular perspectives associated with, sin and what is evil for society and all these kind of things, because it just doesn't seem to apply to any meaningful thing that I've had some degree of contact with. I think in general, the lack of, specific moral perspectives and specific, somewhat hypocritical views, I just feel culturally, intellectually, on a variety of levels, I just don't feel that any of that is really applicable. And it's curious when you observe things like cultural voting preferences, that, these are still actual things. There are still people that view that if they vote for people that are, of their particular race or their political affiliation or all these kind of strange anomalies, that they'll get someone different, that in fact these things are what is important, as opposed to the way that the political system is systemically designed not to represent the people that are stupid enough to vote for the politicians that come in place. So, what I've tried to do here is offer a relatively general perspective associated with my definition of cultural relativism, or just relativism in general, and then I'm going to get into specifics and counterexamples that have shaped my thinking in future Short Funk recordings. Tom Barbalet in San Jose, signing out.